right, Lukas. Thank you very much for taking your time, sharing your perspectives on the European battery ecosystem and how we can make this story a successful one. But before we jump into that discussion, let's talk about your path into the battery space.
Right. Thanks, Simon, for the invitation and for the chance to be here. I've been in the battery ecosystem for more than 10 years now. It started all by chance with an internship at BMW in the strategy and volume production environment for the planning department for the battery manufacturing systems for module and pack. And since then, the path via the States, planning pack lines there and module lines in China and Leipzig, ended up quitting at BMW and developing my own company, which is LKMC, starting in April 2021. And I'm very, very happy that we managed to grow and develop ourselves through the pandemic until now to a company that is no consulting company, but a company that is operative partner in launch phases with project management in the planning phase from the early initial phase to the end. So I've seen the early development phase of OEMs until today's phase where we have this struggling phase and this holding phase in Europe.
Yeah.
And my core expertise is industrialization and planning. And this is what's most fun for me.
Yeah, so I want to dive into depth on your experiences and your insights there. But before we go into that, let's just recap on the path that our industry has undergone the last years, because you have seen that from the inside. In a couple of bullets, how would you describe the trajectory that the world, but also especially Europe, was on?
A trajectory. So what I think is we had in the middle of the years from 2010 to 2020, we had this very, very humble phase of just a couple of models coming up with like little volume. The PHEVs, there were no real big BEV programs in there, and the OEMs, the automotive OEMs, just tried to make a lot of money with the old combustion technology,
Yeah.
and nobody was brave enough to just say, okay, for example, BMW, we continue with the i3, i8 system and product development logic, and we will get one new EV 5 years later, 2018, didn't exist. So during those years, it was a little bit like a holding phase as well. Tesla was the most popular company, growing and pushing things forward, launching the big volume models year by year. But in Europe, there was a very, very defensive situation. And we understand why that's the case, because it's different compared to Tesla and all the new companies, which just have an EV program. They have the all combustion program, and that pays all the company, and they have way, way higher fixed costs compared to the new ones.
Yeah.
In the last years, in 2020, I remember in 2019, 2020, we had a lot of volume replanning in different companies, and I learned from several OEMs that volumes need to be increased by 30% by quarterly year. And so new lines were planned, timelines were a little bit shortened, so you can match SOPs even with a very, very struggling R&D phase, because product is immature and everything was difficult, and production processes were difficult as well. And this had the first peak in 2021, I think, during the pandemic phase, where the volumes were still growing, stagnating 2022, and then coming back 2023. So after the Ukrainian war started, it was quite obvious that the volume doesn't come as planned, or the peak volume doesn't come. The customers don't want it as it was planned during peak times. Then it got reduced again, but it's still higher compared to the initial planning phase in 2018 and 2019. So we had a very, very calm phase in the years from 15 to 18, and then we had a very strong increase. A lot of models launched in Europe 2021, 2022. And then we have this consolidation phase we are now in for 2 years. And I think the phase we're in at the moment, it has multiple reasons why we have it. Political situation, geopolitical things, customer situation. A lot of first movers already have an EV. Why should the others change? if there's no financial motivation
Mhm.
and the old car works. So I think we have a very, very um, multi multi-reasonal situation why we are in a situation where we are right now, and I think it's not easy to break.
Yeah. The question is, I mean, the situation that is given cannot be changed here right now,
Right.
but we can still act quickly and place competences where we can pull levers in order to free us out of this situation. And since you are working on those lines and seeing on an operative level what is going wrong, but also where we have levers to pull, can you give us a couple of examples? Which are the levers that you would pull first in order to save our industry?
It depends in which product stage we're talking about. When we talk about cell, I think the issue with the cell manufacturing at the moment is that there's just a lack of experience how to really ramp it up, or what the understanding what is right to do at which time.
Hmm.
I think we have great competence in Europe regarding technology.
Hmm.
Absolutely, I have no doubt that we are able to deliver gigafactory equipment. And the second thing is, I'm absolutely convinced that we have a lot of knowledge about how to run and launch productions.
Hmm.
Because automotive production, of course, it works a lot of very, very different in detail. The processes are different, but one of the most important tasks when you launch a production is organization. Organization of people, discipline, organization of labor, and everything. And this can be done. We know how to do that. The only thing is we need to bring the experts together and know how to learn fast.
Hmm.
That's one of the most important things in Cell from my point of view. I hope that everybody learns from the Northvolt example,
Hmm.
because after the end everybody is very, very smart. Everybody knows exactly what went wrong there. However, how could it have been avoided? And I hope that all the cell OEMs or all the cell manufacturers we have in Europe evaluate how they learn and if they learn from that example.
From your perspective, do you see the learning on those lines at those production plants, taking Northvolt as the reference case, how not to do it basically, that we now see the adjustments in those other lines, that we will not replicate the case?
Mm, yes and no. I think yes, for sure. Talking with the experts, talking with the different customers or people at the cell manufacturers, the big ones, of course, they really think about what went wrong there and how
Yeah.
to avoid. They are scared, of course. People are scared that the same thing could happen again. When you imagine it was 13 point something billion plus euros, and this was not sufficient to get it up and running, of course, people are concerned that this could happen again, and everybody tries to avoid it, and people work hard for sure. But the second point is there are some factors that we still need to learn. It's not to say, okay, we saw it, we know everything what to do, and then let's just apply it. We need to learn. We need
Mm.
to learn how to get quality under control. We have the Asian manufacturers, equipment manufacturers. Um, they prove that they can do the work because it works for a lot of gigafactories in Asia and for the Asian companies in Europe. But we need to learn how to interact and handle them, how to
Mm.
steer them. We have language barriers. Um, and we have maybe old enterprise processes at old German companies or European companies that are slow and maybe too slow to get the innovation fast and to get the scrap rate down
Hmm.
fast enough so you don't burn that much money.
Yeah, you're talking about cell manufacturers now, and
Right.
not burning that much cash due to scrap rate is also depending on the competences the machine builders deliver to the production line. And of course, they are not the only one responsible for that because it's a whole interplay. But also looking at the European industry, we're here at the VDMA yearly congress in order to exchange on the competences. And I mean, the hypothesis of this expedition is that we have the competence, but we need to connect it more on an operative level to build more trust. Do you see that we have the competence in order to pick up on the advancements that have been done with Asian market competitors delivering their machines also to European OEM battery manufacturers? So how would you compare the competence that European manufacturers, equipment manufacturers provide versus Asia?
Right. So first, yes, 100%. I'm absolutely convinced that we have the competence required. Um, I think there's a very, very crucial difference about the set of competence, or what do we understand as required competence between Asia and Europe.
Hmm.
And for a lot of Asian gigafactories, the equipment manufacturer, the general contractor, the company delivering all the factory,
Yeah.
does not have the final process know-how to launch it and to get the process parameters put there at the perfect level to make sure that everything works perfect. This is done by the customer. This is not the understanding that we have in Europe, where we are used to equipment which is done to the 98% state or whatever number,
Yes.
and then have a site acceptance test, what we call a BBU in German. And then the operation department takes over and then gets it running. And then it's just everything what needs to be done to final acceptance.
S-
And that is crucial
Yeah.
because the customers, we always talk about proof of competence of the line builders. And yeah, of course, they have not delivered 10 gigafactories. They don't have the experience what we have for the combustion engines. That is
Yes.
100% correct. But the customer side, they haven't launched 10 lines as well. They do not have the experience as well on their side. That's very important. And I think it's very, very difficult um, for the line builder customer interface between Asia and Europe because they're not used to this kind of interface.
Mm.
And we're not used to it as well. That's a culture barrier we're having. Um, and so my answer to your question is yes, we have the technical competence. Of course, the Asian companies do have the technical competence as well, but the split and the responsibilities between companies, they differ.
When it comes to the launch, when it comes to the launch of the line together with the customer, I think there's a different understanding, right?
Right.
The European idea of turnkey is really turnkey. So the line basically starts, and then you have the final adjustments, and 98%, and then those two, of course, and a different understanding on the Asian from the Asian supplier. Is that how I understand you correctly?
Right, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
And it works absolutely fine for the interface between Wuxi Lead and CATL, but
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work fine for Wuxi Lead and Northvolt, for example, because Northvolt does not have the process competence CATL has.
Yes.
And it could work fine for companies like Wuxi Lead and some other European companies after they learned about the process expertise when you are aware of this difference.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of this difference and always want to see the complete finished line with all the parameters set, parameters developed, and maybe you had in your RFQ process development as part of the job because you don't have a cell production pilot line center at your own company to develop the final parameters.
Yeah.
So there are many manufacturers paying into that situation, but this interface is crucial.
Yeah. And one other thing that I think is also worth mentioning is the learning speed and the quality that we set in Europe set as a goal. Maybe you can comment on this really quick to get an understanding of what is actually happening in those companies at the moment, despite all this distracting media, which also brought me to the reason setting up this campaign in order to provide a format on communicating the true advancements of our industry. So compare please the German European competence that is built right now in comparison to the speed of the Asian production competence. We are talking about machine level, not about materials right now.
Okay. Regarding production competence and not line building, equipment building competence, I think the learning speed is not super high in Europe at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Not because we are unable to learn, but because we don't have that many gigafactories up and running. We have just a couple of factories that are really at the spot where the crucial point of success or failure can be applied
Mm-hmm.
or actually happens at the
And
moment.
can be quantified.
Can be qualified, yeah, exactly. We have a bunch of smaller projects which work quite fine, but I think there is not the broad learning all over the technical society. When I look into specific companies, the big ones, ACC, Verco, PowerCo, Salesforce, all the others,
Yeah.
those were just examples. I'm very, very positive about the progress step by step.
Okay.
We should not be blinded by all those negative news we can read on LinkedIn and all the other pages. because news work better with negative headlines. There are a lot of things that didn't work fine in Europe the last years, and we had the bankruptcies, we had the stops of projects and the terminations and all those things.
Mm.
However, we make progress from last year to this year, equipment wise. When I talk to the big CEOs of those cell manufacturers,
Yeah.
they're what they say is completely different regarding the competence regarding process industrialization now compared to 1 year ago. When I see battery show in Stuttgart one month ago, of course it's difficult at the moment because we don't have that many customer projects, RFQs out, POs incoming. Everything is a little bit on hold.
Yes.
However, I see more self-confidence that we can do it. I see more self-confidence that we're able to deliver technology equipment-wise. And regarding the manufacturing companies, the producers, cell producers, it's step by step. It's baby step by baby step. And I think the ACC strategy, for example, to postpone Kaiserslautern is absolutely correct, to not make the same mistake, or maybe no mistake, but come into the same situation
Strategy.
as Northvolt.
To have too many construction sites at the same time, right?
Too many hot boiling points at the same time without having the clear idea what needs to be done next, one step after the other. As long as you have to investigate and need to check what to do, it's always a big risk. So I think the strategy is right. That's why many projects are postponed at the moment. Of course, there are other factors as political reason, all those volatility news regarding regulation and all the others, tariffs, that doesn't help.
It distracts from
that's another point.
Yeah.
However, I'm quite sure that we make progress step by step.
Okay.
But of course, the Chinese learn super fast as well. That's why I said I think the progress is not as fast as what theirs is. CATL replaces a lot of gigafactory equipment from 2019 the next years, because they learned a lot how to be more efficient. They learned a lot how to be in clean environment. They know what to do. It's not just money put in from government. Yeah, that exists as well, but those guys know what to do, and they have a clear strategy. They have a very clear and streamlined industrial politics, and same applies in the own company down there to the operator.
Yeah, the political scheme on really setting out a 5-year plan, as it's done in China, year or like period after period, is reflected is reflected in the company strategy as well.
Right.
So you're talking about CATL, and then they have the confidence that the market condition and from a political perspective will be kind of guaranteed or at least supported in this legislative period. Whereas in Europe, we have a democratic structure where the debate is the common good of finding political common ground. However, this takes time, and it really takes a lot of resources until a strategy is laid out, and the time is running out right now, and that's what we're facing. So what I want to ask you, Lukas, that are 3 questions I ask every guest in this campaign, and that is the key challenges, the potential, and your call to action on how to bring the European battery system or ecosystem to life. Let's start with a negative one. What are the challenges that are really holding us back, if you would name it in bullet points?
The key challenge we have in Europe is, from my point of view, we have no clear politics that draw everything into one direction. We have this jumping back and forth, like legislation periods every couple of years, and combined with the old settled companies that make their money not with EVs, but with the old combustion cars. Of course, there is a conflict of motivation in there for all the sides, for the politician side, for the company side, and that's a key challenge. What we need to do is we need to find a way how to break the barrier of this super high initial investment. And how I would do it, the one call to action, what I would do is I would bring together the big companies and the politicians in Europe or in separate companies as Germany. I bring it together, find a way how to scale a small projects to prove how we can control and how we can understand the processes, and then scale it big without having a private company to spend it. And maybe there's another sector, not automotive, helping us.
Where we can, in a secure space where we can learn.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and then first plant the seed, grow it in a safe environment, and then
Exactly.
let it become big in the real
Yeah.
world.
Military and defense could be
Mhm.
a sector that could work. Drone battery production is not volume-wise is nothing compared to the EV sector.
Yeah.
We talk about megawatt hours,
Yes.
call it 100 maybe. But this could exactly the stage of scaling we need for a particular set of companies to learn the right things to be able to scale bigger, or to learn how to do other things. So I think that's the right thing to
Yeah.
do. And maybe automotive is not the only path that could help us to those stages of scaling.
Mhm.
And I think we need to have a clear, streamlined strategy with politicians and the big companies. All the we don't have a startup issue in Germany from my point of view. We have great startups, great ideas,
Yeah.
from multi-level BMS to whatever, new cell chemistries and more.
Yeah.
We need, and those companies will never go big if they don't have somebody who gives them money, risk capital, venture capital, whatever. And I think we need big and strong companies that are able to survive that long year period of big investments, scrap costs, launch costs. And we need to be clear, after we master that phase, it will not be easy for those companies after that. Why should it be? Because cell prices are super low from China, and they control materials, raw materials. Of course, it will be a lot of pressure on materials, and the cell price will be even lower from China. So
Mhm.
those companies, that it will be very, very hard to make money. It will just make sense if it's a strategic goal. And I think it's important to do that, because just to be dependent on imports, we should know how to do it and how to scale.
Yeah.
I'm 100% convinced by that.
So in summary, you're saying the big challenge lying ahead, that politics is not providing the guardrails that provides the ground on growing these businesses, and we have the potential. You elaborated with the machine building quality that is there, the speed of innovation on the machine level, but not yet on the production level. Like from a cell manufacturer, there the learning is
Right.
still rather small
I
because
think we have the qualification.
yeah,
In specific particular points, I wanted to add
yeah,
this. I don't want to talk bad about those guys, not one word. But I think we don't have like 50 projects out there, and we can say, oh, there's an environment growing that learns fast and that will deliver all the demands we need, and we have all the competence required. I don't think so. We have it, and we develop it in separate and specific companies, piece by piece,
mm-hmm.
and but not on the full level. There are many, many projects on hold, many companies, startups that wanted to do something, and they're waiting because it's hard to get money
Yeah.
at the moment, which is no issue. But that's what I said. I think we don't learn that fast compared to the Chinese.
Mm-hmm. So if you should put your advice in one sentence, finally, what is your call to action
For who exactly? Because
for our industry?
for our industry.
So you can decide to whom to place this advice to.
So I pick the big OEMs,
Mm-hmm.
the automotive OEMs, because I think they are the right ones to be targeted. Please, everybody should get together, talk with each other, check how to partner, and get one European Gigafactory project up and running with your financial strength in the background, because we need to prove ourselves, and we need to prove the media and society and everybody and all those bad headline people on LinkedIn and everybody that we can do it, because technology based we can do it, organizational based we can do it as well. But we need to do the final proof, and we need to keep it going and not to let it go halfway.
I agree with you, and I'm looking forward to go with you on that mission. So
Thank you.
thank you, Lukas.
You're welcome. Thank you.